Hello guys, this is PushDustIn with Source Gaming, and joining me today is video content lead NantenJex
Hello.
and translator lead Massman.
Hello there.
So a couple days ago, Nintendo had the Switch presentation in which they unveiled a ton of new details and a ton of new things about their upcoming system.
Finally.
So, what do you think about the presentation itself? Do you think that Nintendo had a good presentation?
It reminded me a lot of the old E3 presentations from before, back when they did used to do stage shows. Like, there was a lot, I expected them to start with the hardware and Kimishima to be there and all that, and then bring out the different developers, do a silly little introduction sort of video for the system, then games and developers of that game come out, and then third party comes out, and you get a big reel. Like, it was all very much what they'd done before. But because they hadn't done it in so long, it felt a bit more refreshing. I kind of wish that they'd got better translators for it on the English side of things. Like, cause
how was that? I was just listening to the Japanese stream.
so
I don't
the
know
guy
anything
who was
about
doing the main part was fine. Like,
was that Bill or was
no,
it
it wasn't
someone
Bill.
else?
Bill was there, and Bill was translating for the head of EA.
He did the EA guy,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, okay. I saw him then, but I wasn't sure who was handling the.
No, it's someone else
Japanese
in
English side.
Treehouse, but one of the guys who's handling Kimishima and the primary people, were he was fine. He even got like a bunch of the puns right and stuff like this in the Splatoon segment. But then the guy they had to do the third party ones was so like it was almost like they just grabbed the intern and got him to do it. Like, I know, and I gotta get there's gotta be difficult, translating this live, and especially where they might have had a script prepared for stuff like Kimishima and all that, whereas they might not have for third party. But it really took the excitement out of stuff. It particularly bad with Suda51, where he's very energetic and he's talking a lot and all this, and then the translator's like, and that here's Travis Touchdown. Remember him? He's coming back. Yeah. Like the translator couldn't even finish Suda51's part. You can see him catching up, and Suda51 says goodbye, and then he just rushes the final part and gets cut off right at the end.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I actually watched both the Japanese and the English, and in particular like NantenJex mentioned, Suda51 was a very bad translation, and on top of that, I think the ARMS presentation was very lackluster in English.
Yeah, that was.
And it's because in Japanese the developer, I'm blanking on his name, but he was very energetic. He was like, arms, it's a new IP, it's gonna be awesome. And then in English, they're just like, here's a new game, it's arms, it's gonna.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, it just really took the wind out of it, and Nintendo, I think, really would benefit from doing a direct instead of a live presentation next time.
Yeah.
Have some preparation. That makes sense.
Just localize it for each territory.
Yeah. I will say that as someone who's fluent in Japanese, even I had a hard time following Suda51 because his speech was all over the place. So I didn't hear whoever was interpreting for him, but I definitely don't envy them for getting stuck with him. He's a brilliant developer, but yeah, as excited as he was, it did come off a little bit rambling. So even I, attentive though I may have been, had a little difficulty following where he was going with everything.
Yeah. At one point, he was just talking about meeting up with other indie developers at Bit Summit and stuff like that. And then he's like, he just kept on changing topics. Yeah,
he was bouncing around a lot. So I, as someone who has interpreted before as well, it's really hard to follow somebody's speech patterns. Yeah, exactly, because you're trying to make things as cohesive and natural sounding as possible, but when they're bouncing from topic to topic to topic, then you also have to do the same, and it just comes off really discombobulated.
Yeah.
Although, let's speaking about the third party developers while we're on that topic. Despite Suda51 bouncing around all over the place and having a bad translation, I feel like his part was the only part that was interesting in that third party developer discussion. Like, I understand why Nintendo did it. They wanted to show that third parties were supporting the system. But I feel like it might have been better just to show off the games for that, because all we really got is, yep, Skyrim is in fact coming. And Suda51 confirms there's like No More Heroes 3, but it's not going to be out for a few years because he's only just started it. The Sega guy just came on and was like, yeah, we're helping out. And the EA guy came on and said, yeah, we're helping out. And that was like...
Yeah.
And the EA guy spoke for like a good 4 minutes to basically say, yeah, FIFA is coming.
Right. I think part of that is just in response to the ever-present concern among, a majority of internet denizens that, Nintendo doesn't have third-party support. Nintendo is, this new console is going to fail because they only have first-party titles, and that's not going to be enough to sustain the system for a generation,
Yeah.
So I feel like it was also partially a move on their part to say, hey, look at all these people who have come out and publicly supported our new console. Don't you want to also? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
I feel like maybe a better way to do that would have either to have a video, because I feel like it was Sony who did this, but they had like a third-party developer reel, where they had a bunch of third-party developers talking about the PlayStation 4 Pro, it might have been, and how great of a system it was. And they went through like 15 different companies, 15 different developers in a much quicker pace and stuff like that. Like, it would cut to one developer saying some sort of support and all this for about a minute, and then it would cut to another one. And like, they actually had footage of games going along in between segments. Like, here's the people from Rockstar, and here's the GTA 5 port as well while they're talking. Whereas, like, with the Sega guy, they had him saying, yeah, Sega's supporting it, but they didn't talk about any games at all. They were just like, Sega's always been a big supporter of Nintendo, and we're excited to see that continue supporting them with the Switch. Like, but they didn't even mention Sonic or Puyo Puyo Tetris, which was then like later shown off in a trailer.
Yeah, like immediately after the presentation had finished, they unleashed all these trailers and information. Sonic Mania was announced for the Switch, which was previously unknown, and Bomberman. The Super Bomberman game was shown as well.
Yeah.
And also the new Street Fighter 2 game. So I felt like those games should have been in the presentation.
Yeah, we got like a glimpse of Sonic Mania, Bomberman, and all that in the really fast reel that they did. But again, it wasn't afforded a proper amount of time for what amounted to a pretty decent announcement for some people. People got really excited about it,
Especially with Bomberman, Nintendo's helping out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a mystery on why they didn't include it in the actual presentation.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at what they decided to place their big focus on, right?
I think the reason they chose EA and Bethesda, and I mentioned this in the video that I posted last night, I think that's because Nintendo really wanted to show that they got new developers, or developers that used to work with Nintendo but haven't worked with Nintendo in a long time.
Yeah.
And then so other companies like Konami, Sega, and Capcom, they were kind of left for the after show because they've always worked with Nintendo.
Yeah, they've never had a truly bad relationship, if you will. Exactly. Yeah.
Although, I mean, I can get behind that, but I feel like the way they went about it was very long-winded, and it could have been spent getting the same point across, but with some actual game stuff. Because I think that's a big problem that people are coming away with this presentation. That Nintendo have been so quiet over the last year, and the Wii U has basically been dead. So everyone was kind of anticipating a lot of game announcements, and Nintendo says there's still more to come. But they didn't actually show off that much, and especially considering the system's only 6 weeks away, they barely touched the launch lineup.
6 weeks.
And I mean, part of that is because of the fact that the launch lineup is actually not that big. But even in Japan, for example, the Nobunaga game is one of the launch lineups, one of the 7 games coming out for it. And that wasn't talked about at all. At all. I mean, and Bomberman wasn't either, and that's another launch game. And Just Dance, I kind of understand what more can you say about it. It's Just Dance. But at least they mentioned Dragon Quest Heroes 1, 2, Switch, and Zelda. But that's 3 of your 7 launch titles. You chose to focus on less than half of your launch titles in this presentation. Some of the stuff could have been left for... I get showing Mario off and Splatoon 2 off, but there are some other things that could have just been held back a bit longer to really drive home what's the coming immediately, I guess.
Sure.
They also didn't announce the Inklings in Mario Kart 8 until after.
Yeah, that was again, Mario Kart 8 didn't even get... It got a very brief focus at the very beginning, where they had footage of it working on the Switch. and you could see it was battle mode, but they didn't address it at all. We had to wait for a trailer afterwards for the announcement for that.
Yeah, somewhat unceremonious of them.
Yeah, and that's a big problem I think a lot of people had with this presentation, is a lot of the stuff, they were expecting some massive blowout, and the stuff they showed was good. I mean, Super Mario looks great, and Splatoon 2 looks great, but outside of that, they reconfirmed that the 2 Dragon Quests are coming, and then announced 1 and 2 Heroes are coming together as a bundle. Xenoblade Chronicles was great, but that's again, that's the thing. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, they announced it, but that's a game that probably isn't coming out to the very end of the year. And Fire Emblem Warriors is a game that has absolutely no date whatsoever. And Fire Emblem is even getting a direct this week. They could have just completely held off on that and just announced it at this direct. So why spend that segment on those 2 games when you could have spent that segment on Mario Kart and on something else that was coming soon?
I kind of understand it, since they just want to get the name out there. At least in the case of Fire Emblem, they say, hey, look, this is coming, get people talking about it, because no one anticipated it, right?
Yeah.
So in that sense, I think it was shock value, if you will, rather.
Yeah. I think for Xenoblade, I certainly agree. I had a feeling there'd be a new Warriors game, and Fire Emblem made the most sense if it wasn't another Hyrule Warriors to me. But Xenoblade,
you even did the roster prediction.
Yeah, I did a whole article on it, but I wasn't expecting Xenoblade 2 at all.
I wasn't either, and I am so friggin' excited.
Yeah, same.
As soon as I saw that, I saw Monolith Soft, and I was like, oh yeah, the port that everyone's been talking about of Xenoblade Chronicles Cross. And then I saw this big, expansive sky, and I thought, wait, could it be? Yes! Xenoblade 2!
No, it was exciting. It's just, that's the thing, that game's... It got confirmed for 2017 after via tweets on Twitter, and that's only for Japan. And then, exactly. The rest of the world probably won't get it till 2018.
I would be surprised if the rest of the world got it this year.
Yeah. So, I feel like this is a game that could have been saved for E3, almost.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's the same logic that probably prompted them to announce Fire Emblem Warriors, just that they wanted to get people talking about it on social media. Even Reggie in the presentation, that was pre-recorded, I'm sure, but he mentioned that right now, all around the world, people are all abuzz about this new console on social media. And I think that was, the console itself, of course, is getting a lot of buzz. But, the games that they announced, oh my god, I can't believe they're putting out X game. I can't believe this is coming out. So yeah, even though those were just teasers, I mean, the same with Shin Megami Tensei, right?
Yeah.
I think it's just, could they have waited until E3 to give a more fleshed out announcement? Sure, but that's not going to drive people to buy the console at launch if they don't know it's coming.
Yeah. Well, I feel like with third parties, there was a kind of exception to the rule, because the third parties, they needed to show that big names were going to be supporting this, hence why they had that whole developer thing. Sure. But Nintendo's own first party and second party games, they could just do them whenever they want. I think it was important to show Mario for sure, because he's Mario. And Splatoon being the new big IP that Nintendo are pushing, that also made sense to show off.
Mm-hmm. Well, they also showed off at least parts of those in the Switch reveal.
Yeah, that's true.
So it felt like a continuation of that, really.
Sure.
But again, Mario Kart also got shown off in that, and then it wasn't talked about at all. Probably because it was a port, to be fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. While we're talking about Mario Kart, I know that a lot of people have been discussing the number of stages, and it doesn't sound like they're very happy about it, huh?
No. So I had you check it before we posted it, but yeah, there's 48 tracks in the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, and that was confirmed in the Japanese presentation.
Right.
And if you include the amount of tracks that are in the base game and the DLC, then it's 48. So it might be the case where there's no new tracks if nothing was removed.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would be surprised if there weren't a proper Splatoon racetrack. I know that we had talked about there being a battle stage. But yeah, it would feel like such a missed opportunity when you have Zelda. You have a Zelda track, you have an Animal Crossing track. These guest characters have their own tracks, so why not give it to the Inklings when you have probably most of the assets anyway. If you can build a battle track, surely you can repurpose those textures and those assets
kind of layouts
into a stack. Into a track itself. I think that should be pretty easy. But what do I know?
My theory before that news came out was that they would have kind of a Splatfest track where they would have like Marie and Carrie.
Yeah.
That would be an amazing track, I feel like.
I would love that.
Yeah, same.
But here's hoping that they come out as DLC or at least or something.
See, I don't know. I said this to you before we started recording, but I feel like Mario Kart 8 is very much we need to get a Mario Kart game out for launch. So stop the development of whatever Mario Kart sequel you're working on now and make a port of 8 for us. Sort of thing. And then they were just like, well, what can we add to 8 to make it more interesting rather than just a straight up port? Oh, I don't know, battle mode was the big thing everyone criticised before. So let's just make that better. Because apart from the Inklings, the other 3 characters are all characters from Mario Kart Wii, who could have very easily just been brought over from that game. And in Dry Bones' case, they could have literally just made him from Koopa like they did with Dry Bowser and Bowser.
Yeah, they probably did, honestly.
So they chose characters that were very easy to develop for and decided to just put all their attention on the battle mode. Some stages are returning, some are new. Even the new items they brought back aren't new items. Like, they showed off the feather, which is the first time it's been there since Super Mario Kart. But that's primarily because the feather's only really useful in battle mode. And it's a returning item, so they don't have to think about how it might function against a lot of everything else that's in the game. So, like...
Yeah, I mean, in terms of developing the item and, implementing it and making sure it works functionality-wise, that would require a decent amount of work.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying when it comes to the characters,
Like, they're all sort of the same, and it wouldn't surprise me if the new cars that they add are actually all just cars that are from Wii.
They did say that there would be new carts, and they said they didn't give a number for the amount of pieces or the amount of battle stages.
Yeah, but you have new carts and then new characters, and the new characters are mostly returning characters, so would most of the cars be returning cars as well? Like, that's something like the characters that they could just port over and then make sure that stats work.
Right. It's hard to say.
Yeah. That's what Mario Kart 8 Deluxe feels to me, and that might be why they don't have any new tracks, and I don't see them getting DLC for it because it's just a stop game. And in two years, we'll get a proper Mario Kart 9.
Tracks are definitely the thing that takes up the most amount of time in Mario Kart.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'm not really sure what to expect from it.
So yeah, a lot of people are disappointed about that. But one thing that I thought was really good about the presentation was actually Koizumi himself. I thought he did a fantastic job presenting.
Oh yeah, I could see him. I would love him to do more Nintendo Directs in the future.
Yeah.
No, I thought he was personable. Had a sense of humor about him. He's no Iwata-san, and no one ever will be, sadly.
Yeah.
But he had big shoes to fill, and I think he did a decent job.
The guy who does the Japanese directs, is his name Moriyama?
Morimoto, I think.
Morimoto.
He
wasn't actually there.
No, I didn't see him. It seemed like they were focusing more on having the developers themselves speak, no pun intended, but directly to the audience. You had Yabuki-san for the ARMS team. You had Kawamoto-san, I think is his name, from 1-2 Switch. So it seemed like they wanted to actually bring the developers out and have them speak directly with the audience. And I like that approach. I think it's more effective at conveying what they want the audience to experience, and it gives you a new perspective on the game itself.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess the next title that we should talk about is 1-2 Switch.
Ah, yes.
Did you get a chance to play that?
No, ARMS was the only one that I ended up getting a chance to try. I tried swinging back by the 1-2 Switch booth later on in the day, but the line it wasn't dying down, at least for the cancellation line.
Okay.
Yeah. I think because it was so fast-paced, they didn't have a lot of cancellations. It's something that most people thought that they could just get in, play, and get out with. But because there were several booths within each for the entire setup. They had what looked like a separate booth for each minigame. And I imagine that players went from one to the next, just trying each one out against this goofy-looking opponent.
Yeah, I know for the cow milking game, they had a guy dressed like a farmer.
Yeah, exactly. They had a guy dressed as a farmer. Actually, it was funny. The farmer guy looked almost exactly like the farmer in the translator minigame from Rhythm Heaven.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but it's a lot of the same developers. So I wouldn't be surprised if that were like a real life Easter egg.
Well, I felt like that whole beginning trailer from 1-2 Switch just screamed Wild Gunman. Like entirely.
That opening sequence.
Yeah, that's almost what I thought it was. Like it was like some sort of
Nintendo. It is
Nintendo.
called Gunman in Japanese.
Is it? See, I wonder if that's like an intentional nod, basically.
Oh, I'm sure.
So.
Yeah, the setup and everything was spot on.
Yeah, reading reports on the 1-2 Switch, it seems like a lot of people have really enjoyed the HD Rumble with it.
Yeah. That was the reason that I really wanted to check it out, because Koizumi-san, he made such a big deal about it in the presentation that I wanted to play a game that would allow me to experience that to the fullest, and sadly I didn't get to, but it looked really interesting.
Yeah, no, I agree. The HD Rumble is what I'm super interested in, because I mean that's clearly the next evolution of what they want the Wii Remote to be, basically. Like it's that kind of next step, and it's the thing that they will go in on. Oh, there's something unique about the Switch apart from the portability, and it's the HD Rumble. And if it works really well, I could see it becoming like straight up an absolute standard, just like the Rumble Pack did back in the day.
I feel like HD Rumble would only be really useful for motion controller, though.
It depends, really. It depends how immersed in that sense of realism you want to get. I mean, I think it could work really well with VR, when the whole point is getting in. Like, if VR, you actually have a controller, and when you're holding it, it actually feels like you're holding a sword or a glass of ice or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
That would straight up be... everyone would want that, because it just adds to that sense of immersion.
Okay, and then I guess we can talk a little bit about Snipper Clips.
Yeah.
I know that's the game that NantenJex is the most excited about.
I keep hearing lots of really good things about it. Like, it wasn't in the presentation. It was a very small game. I'm not entirely sure who made it, but everything I've heard about that game, everyone's been like, actually, it was like my favorite game at the presentation, or my second favorite game at the event. Like, it's just a really fun co-op puzzle game.
Yeah, it looks adorable.
Yeah, it looks adorable. It makes really good use of the Joy-Cons. I feel like it reminds me a lot of Freaky Forms, and I wonder if it's the same team working on that as the people who made that.
That is a good question.
I'm not 100% sure if Snipper Clips is an internal Nintendo game like ARMS is, or if it's more like because Freaky Forms was published by Nintendo, but the company who made it isn't one that's owned by Nintendo. It was just made up of developers who used to work at Skip and then went off and formed their own company.
Right. I'm actually looking at a report now that came out and said that Snipper Clips is co-developed by SFB Games, Super Flash Bros.
Super Flash Bros.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was originally developed by them. I actually saw a presentation of these two brothers. I want to say it was Kevin and Adam, but I could be wrong. So
I remember them from Newgrounds days.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So they are the co-developers. Tom and Adam are the names. But yeah, so they had originally presented it, and I guess they are collaborating now with Nintendo.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a perfect fit. I watched the trailer. I watched their original presentation. And yeah, I think conceptually it fits like a glove. You have the two characters that you can control with one of the Joy-Cons a piece. it has a great aesthetic that I think jives really well with what Nintendo is, what they do really well. What's their wheelhouse, if you will.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at other games that Super Flash Bros made, and yeah, now I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're all mobile games, but stuff like Rugby Golf and Haunt the House all look that same kind of art style. Okay, alright, that's good to have a confirmation on that. You learn something new as you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I literally just read it moments ago, so perfect timing.
You're well prepared.
More than I anticipated, yeah.
But, no, Snipperclips, I imagine it's just a small eShop game. Seems really fun.
Yeah. I don't remember how much it was, but I know it's download only, and I think it was slightly cheaper than a lot of the other release titles.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also Super Bomberman R that was shown off after the presentation.
Yes. And that was on display at the Switch Taikenkai, the demo event.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that line was huge.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, they had a special corner devoted to all the third-party titles, and I think Bomberman's was consistently the longest line just throughout the day.
Yeah.
I walked past several times to get a feel for which games were really popular, which ones were more accessible, if you will. And yeah, the Bomberman line was easily over almost 3 hours every single time I checked.
Wow. People really want to play that.
But again, I think exactly, yeah, it just speaks to the audience that the game has and how excited people are for it.
I would imagine that Ultra Street Fighter 2 was also pretty long.
It was interesting. It was a really long line when I first checked, and then towards the end of the day, it had kind of died down.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not really sure why. I know that they did a stage presentation for the game, so some people may have been diverted from playing and moved over to kind of watch them discuss the game instead.
Well, I feel like it's just Street Fighter 2 in the end of the day.
Yeah, there is that.
So, yeah, there's some additional modes, like they added the 2v1.
Yeah.
And of course the 2 new characters.
Right.
But yeah, the new content within it is not that much. Okay. And then we have Skyrim, Minecraft, Just Dance.
Yeah, well, these are all games like Skyrim people have been talking about for ages. It's good to just get that big confirmation. Minecraft was one we were saying before the presentation. Oh, I'm sure it's going to be on there. There's no way they won't have Minecraft for this. Just Dance is already confirmed. Like, those third parties, I think it's good to have them, obviously, but it wasn't like any big sort of surprise. Like Skyrim being part of that initial reveal trailer makes sense to be in the presentation itself. The others were fine just being in that reel at the end.
Yeah. And then there's also Has Been Heroes.
Ah, yeah.
No, I didn't see it. It wasn't in the presentation, so I have no idea about that one.
Yeah. That is it by Frozen Byte? I think it's...
Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know too much about it myself, to be honest, but...
No, I haven't been able to look anything up on it yet.
But that was at least confirmed, and I think that was also at the event. I don't know if they've demoed it on live stream or not.
Was it?
Apparently it was. Has Been Heroes.
It was, okay.
Yeah. It was on that 4chan leak before the presentation.
Yeah, I know that it leaked. I don't remember if I saw it there, though. I did pass by the area, but maybe it was just tucked away.
Oh, so we know the 4chan leaker wasn't in Japan.
No, yeah, funnily enough. I think they said they were from Europe or something.
That's what I think people figured out based on
I think they mentioned it. No, it doesn't look like they had it on display here. Unless, or maybe that's not a listing of the titles on display. It was just the titles that they had announced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't even see it listed on the this page in the pamphlet. They have a 2-page spread devoted to all the title logos for the games that they announced for Switch. But yeah, it doesn't actually make any mention of Has Been Heroes.
Yeah, I think it's a new IP, completely new.
Yeah.
And it's a strategy and action game. It's a roguelike.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's gonna be cool then, because you have I think it's an audience that Nintendo fans haven't really or that Nintendo hasn't really appealed to properly over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was interesting to see what indie developers wore there, like, because you have that. It has been Heroes, and I feel that's mainly because Trine was quite big on the Wii U. It was like one of the first. Trine 2 was like one of the first eShop games on the Wii U.
And it got a lot of love in the presentations.
Yeah, and then you have Fast Racing Neo port, or whatever it's called, Fast Racing Neo RNX, which has all the DLC and some new stuff as well. And they had a Switch dev kit and could make the game. And then Tantalus did are the ones who just did Sonic Mania. And Tantalus obviously also did Twilight Princess HD and a bunch of other ports to the Wii U as well. So it's interesting what Indian minor third party devs, I should say, had their hands.
There's
on
also
the Switch early enough.
Nicalis.
With Nicalis with Binding of Isaac Afterbirth Plus. Yeah.
Yep. That was officially confirmed moments after the presentation.
Yeah. So like,
right.
It's interesting. They got big developers, but they've also got a handful of little ones. And I'm sure there are more and more indie games are coming out being announced for the Switch. But I feel like many of them didn't have dev kits until very recently. Like, not nearly early enough that they could be guaranteeing their games for the Switch at that point.
With the Switch, you could, since it uses, I believe, Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
Then developers who are making these games, they could have been making it on that engine and then waiting for the dev kits to arrive.
Yeah, actually, yes, that's true.
That's also possible, yeah.
So with even the ones that they announced, though, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have dev kits.
Okay, fair enough. What about I guess it's just Mario and Splatoon, I guess, are the last two big things from the actual presentation to
I love Mario.
Yeah.
Super Mario Odyssey looks amazing. And I'm just waiting for more information on that.
Yeah, I was really happy with the aesthetic that they had.
It really feels like each area is very, very unique, and I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think that I think Super Mario it's that 64 Sunshine style, the big, as they call it, the sandbox style, which a lot of us have been missing since ages, like since the beginning, since Galaxy, I guess. And it is interesting what worlds they've been choosing. This New York City styles level, which looks like it's in the real world, but is also very clearly based on Donkey Kong original. I'm wondering what other sort of references we'll get to that, whether or not. So, like, Galaxy introduced this, but 64 and Sunshine had this as well. Characters who you could interact with and speak to, and like, you know, some missions involve talking to certain people, like Koopa the Quick, for example, in the first one. I'm just sitting there thinking, like, could we actually get Donkey Kong in this? Could there be like an actual mission where you have to rescue Pauline from Donkey Kong as like a throwback to that in this level? And because they got things really themed around. You had that food level, and instead of Hammer Brothers, they were like Chef Brothers, and they had chef hats and threw frying pans.
And you had the vegetables with the huge nabe pot in the middle.
Yeah, like
I thought that was funny.
And the Mexican level has the, you know, the Day of the Dead style sombrero wearing stereotypes going on there.
And also possibly the line from Super Mario Land 1.
Yeah, I've seen. I need to have a look at that.
Right.
I need to have a look at that more closely. But the fact that you can ride that is really interesting. It makes me think, what other... Surely that's not just something that's a gimmick to that level. Surely that's going to come back. Is Yoshi going to come back? Are they just going to leave it? Will Mario ride
Maybe you can ride the taxis
around New Donk City?
Yeah, that name.
But I know a lot of people were kind of unhappy with Mario clashing with the real world.
Yeah, it's weird. I think
Sonic
it's
Adventure.
Yeah, a lot of Sonic Adventure flashbacks.
Right.
But I don't think it's that bad.
I don't know. I can understand people being a bit thrown off by it. It is strange. Like, especially because, as everyone was kind of led on to believe at this point, that real humans in the Mario world they don't look like regular humans. They look like Mario and his friends do. Like, Mario's meant to be from Brooklyn, and Pauline's also meant to be from Brooklyn, and they look clearly way more cartoony than the humans we actually do see in this game.
Yeah.
So it really juts things around a lot. And I'm sure there'll be some kind of big explanation for why this is here. Like, it seems to be dimension hopping.
This is I believe in the Japanese presentation they say they travel from different worlds, different countries.
See, that's just weird to me, because there's like a country of really regular looking human people, and then on the other, just a bit off on the other side of the earth, there's a country of vegetables, sentient vegetable creatures.
I mean, I think that's why they had that globe on the Hatmobile.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It's just very. You'd expect then everything to have a more consistent design aesthetic, and it almost does if it isn't for that really realistic human world. I think that's.
Yeah, I'm curious as to what inspired that, or what prompted them to include a semi-realistic world alongside all these other really fantastical locations.
Mm-hmm. I think it was just so different that it was very interesting to do.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't hate it.
Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. What about Splatoon 2?
I think it looks promising, very promising. I'm glad it's has a lot of new content. I'm glad to see the developers back on it, because you can really tell they really care about their game, and they the way that they handled the ending of Splatoon 1 was just kind of emotional, really. Because they were just so happy that the game succeeded, and that everyone had really enjoyed it, and I feel like Splatoon 2 will just continue that trend.
Yeah, I mean that the final Splatfest really was a shared experience,
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I agree.
Did you actually attend the final Splatfest?
I didn't get to. Okay. No, I didn't get to.
But
I think
the fact that they built this sense of community,
and
they continue to play off of that. At least it seems like they're going to with Splatoon 2.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see what they have pulled together.
So, what are your thoughts, NantenJex?
Yeah, so Splatoon, looks really good. I mean, it's interesting, a lot of people I've seen, I think because everyone was led to believe it was going to be a port, that even though it's got Splatoon 2 on it, people can't unsee it as a port. And I've seen a lot of people criticizing it, and I don't think that's particularly fair. If you're gonna call Splatoon 2 a port, then is Pikmin 2 a port of Pikmin 1? It uses the exact same engine, it's just built on top of it. Is Galaxy 2 a port of Galaxy 1? It uses identically the same engine, but even if it's got different levels, is that still a port? And I feel this is the same sort of situation with Splatoon.
Mm-hmm.
Splatoon 2 is clearly based on the same engine as Splatoon 1, but it's not the same. Yeah. It doesn't look like it's the same single player story. I mean, I don't think it does. I think they confirmed it takes place 2 years after the first game.
Yeah, and they also confirmed that all of the power-ups will be different.
Yeah, all completely different.
Most of the weapons are being changed.
Yeah.
I think the shooters are the same, but the other types are different.
They confirmed that all the previous ones, the Splattershot, the Slosher, and all that, they're all coming back. I think there's just new brands and variations, more upgraded ones, new weapon layouts, I guess, because of the fact there's new supers and presumably new sides. I'm assuming that's what that jetpack thing is. Instead of bombs, you have a jetpack.
Yeah,
but
even I didn't get to play, but I was spectating, and I noticed several new weapons or new side items that looked pretty promising and interesting. So it's nice that they've been able to innovate on top of the really solid foundation that they've created.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think your point about Pikmin 1 and 2 and Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 is very important to remember, it's a very interesting discussion, really, is when is the game no longer a port?
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we can really fully explore in a later discussion.
Yeah, I agree.
So, any last thoughts before we kind of wrap this up?
I enjoyed the presentation overall. Overall, I thought the presentation was really good. I feel a bit conflicted on how they did some things. I feel like they should have focused much more on launch, but oh well. And
do you have a score that you would give it?
It depends. Are we doing a numbers score? Are we doing a letter score? How are we doing this?
Let's do a letter score.
Letter score. B+ sounds pretty good. I feel like there were some things that they could have done, like again the third party dev part. I feel could have been handled a bit better. Could have been done to used to showcase more games. And I feel like getting some clearer messaging about some of the other, like the launch lineup and some of the features. Like they casually mention, oh, you're gonna have to pay for online at a certain point at a later date, but then they gave no indication of how online would actually function or why it'd be worth paying for,
right?
And stuff like that. And I feel like the translator as well in the English, specifically talking about the English side, could have been handled a bit better. I'm not going to say I could do it better myself because I can't do it at all, but I feel like they maybe should have got someone who had more experience. I mean, the other guy was fine, but again, I actually don't know how it was behind the scenes, so this is just going from how it came out. But yeah, B+,
right.
B+.
Massman?
Well, I'm a pretty hardcore Nintendo fanboy, so it's hard for me to give it anything less than an A. But you brought up a good point, NantenJex, that the online functionality was kind of left up in the air, and it was a little troubling because, you say what you will about Nintendo's online services, but they've always been free. You've never had to pay to play Smash Online. You've never had to pay to race in Mario Kart Online. So the thought that we might have to do that is a little troubling, coupled with the fact that we don't really know what their online network is going to look like for the Switch going forward. So, yeah, I think their lack of information and the kind of air of foreboding about what they have planned docks the presentation a couple points. But, again, they announced Xenoblade 2. Mario looks amazing. That Zelda trailer was excellent. Splatoon 2 also looks like a lot of fun. ARMS is great. I'm totally hyped for it. Yeah, so I was really satisfied with it. What about you?
I would say probably like a B minus almost even. Just because
you guys are more fair than I am, I think.
I'm not really interested in Xenoblade, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm interested enough for the both of us.
But I know that other people are hyped for it, so I feel that's great news for them. Fire Emblem Warriors is another series that it doesn't excite me. So the most exciting things about the presentation was No More Heroes, then Bomberman, which was left out, and Mario Odyssey, obviously. Splatoon 2 also looked amazing. So overall, I felt like there was like a lot of communication errors. Especially when watching the English translation of it, as NantenJex mentioned, it just didn't really convey a lot of the emotion that was present in the Japanese event, and just the way that they kind of handled the announcements of some things, like as you guys said, the online services. We actually had to translate the Japanese text in order to clarify what they meant with the SNES and the NES games.
Yeah.
Because people were just so confused, and Nintendo, I don't think, has still really come out and officially clarified
I
it.
They did. I think they came out and said like, I think Reggie did.
They?
Yeah, no, Reggie came out and specified that you only keep it for a month and tried to explain why that was the case.
Yeah.
That's not great.
Yeah, no, especially when you compare it to like PlayStation Plus and Xbox One, which are you get PlayStation Plus, you don't get to keep them properly. As soon as you give up PlayStation Plus, you lose them in the game cycle.
Yeah.
But you get more than one game. You get like a good 10, 20 games for PlayStation Plus.
Yep.
You get a good choice. The issue with only having one game is that if it's a game that you don't care about, then
you're stuck with it for a month.
You're stuck with it for a month, and it's like, and the next game you might not care about either, and then you're gonna get to the point of like, why have I even bothered?
The one thing is that they did mention that the games would be updated to have online play.
Yeah, which is like I said this to someone. I feel like this is trying to justify why people should pay again to upgrade. Like from Wii to Wii U, it was the ability to have save states and stuff like this. This time it's online, and that's also to try and justify people actually paying for online. That they're going to be adding it to old games, and that I can appreciate. I think that's fine. Like that's a good feature that they could have. Yeah.
But then they in the past they've asked for so much for emulation.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like a lot of the virtual console titles were very overpriced.
Yeah.
Especially for ones that we've already paid for several times over.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, how many times do I need to buy Ocarina of Time?
Or Super Mario Brothers.
I mean, it's a wonderful game, that's for sure, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, overall, I think that Nintendo had the makings of a good presentation. They just need to sharpen it a little bit. And if 2016 wasn't such a bad year for Nintendo, I would be a little bit I would be a little bit more forgiven. But because there was such a huge drought with news and they didn't really have anything this last year, I really expected the presentation to be a lot sharper.
Sure, I can see that.
But overall, I'm excited for the Switch. I'm looking forward to it being released, and I'm looking forward to it when it does finally pick up that steam.
Yeah, frankly, it can't come soon enough as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. So I think that wraps up our discussion. So you can follow me. I'm PushDustIn on all social media. NantenJex, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Nintendo and Source Gaming. Pretty much check the YouTube page. A lot of the videos you'll find me in.
Okay, and Massman?
Yeah, I'm Kamen no Otoko, but it's probably just easier to look at someone's retweet rather than spell it out for you.
We can. All the links will be in the description below, so be sure to check those out. And make sure to subscribe. Bleh. Make sure to subscribe to Source Gaming for more discussions and translations and a bunch of stuff. We do a lot of everything, really.
We do it all.
Yeah. So stay tuned.